right, 3 o'clock chat here. What's up, Portland? Your Trailblazers in action tomorrow. Rachel Fam is going to be in town. Tip-off from Motor Center at 7. Chris Burkhart will have Blazers game day at 5 here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. It's a Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday here on the Rip City Drive. Today we got 3 pairs of tickets to give away at 3:12, at 4, and 4:45. Listen to us for your chance to win. The New York Jets got Aaron Rodgers a new toy. Jets and Raiders have agreed to trade Devontae Adams for a conditional third-round pick. Last night, the Jets fell at home to the Bills by 3. 2 missed field goals for the Jets in a game that had 22 accepted penalties. Here's Aaron Rodgers.
Just talk a little bit about penalties tonight.
Yeah, it seemed a little ridiculous. Some of them seemed really bad, including the roughing the passer on me. That's not roughing the passer.
Game 2 ALCS will kick off at 4:30 from Yankee Stadium. BB and Cole is on the bump. New York with a 1-0 lead on Cleveland.
The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, presented by Lazy Boy. What is your strategy for comfort?
9 pitches to Vientos, but here's the payoff pitch. Swing and a drive in the air, pretty well hit right center. Pages back at the track, near the wall. It is gone! A grand slam for Mark Vientos on a 3-2 pitch. He clears the bases, hitting it into the pavilion in right center field. Mark Vientos swung out and missed strike 3, put it in the books. He finally went to the slider, strikes out Freeman, and the Mets have evened up the National League Championship Series in 1 game apiece.
Snap by Ferguson, hold by Martin, kick by Bass is up, and it is good. So with 3:43 left, the tie has finally been broken. Bills have the lead, 23-20.
It seemed a little ridiculous. Some of them seemed really bad, including the roughing the passer on me. That's not roughing the passer. I was going to play sarcastic ball if we're going to call those things. And I thought the one on Kinlaw was not roughing the passer either. So.
At the quarterback position, like I said last week, we were scheduled for Russ to work in totality. He did that.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad starts now.
I don't know if you heard that, but you got to respect Aaron Rodgers using a South Park reference in the postgame when talking about the officiating.
Just talk a little bit about penalties tonight.
Yeah, it seemed a little ridiculous. Some of them seemed really bad, including the roughing the passer on me. That's not roughing the passer. I was going to play sarcastic ball if we're going to call those things. And I thought the one on Kinlaw was not roughing the passer either.
Sarcastic ball. In South Park, that was a game that was played because the school district or something like that was worried about the injuries that could take place. So it was a game where instead of tackling, they would hug one another.
Yeah, he's very upset, actually, that the game is getting soft. He's one of the old-timers. And in a quarterback position, that's pretty rare for a guy to say, hey, that was a bad roughing the passer call on me.
Well, I'm old school, too. I'm getting tired of quarterbacks, and I enjoy watching him play, but he's been piss poor, and him throwing everyone else under the bus isn't working for me. Hey, Aaron, the Jets brought you in because you are a Hall of Famer, and you were supposed to be the difference between being a pile of crap and a playoff team, and he's playing like garbage. And they can't get out of their own way. Woody Johnson, it was great to hear Belichick throwing him under the bus on the Manning cast last night. The Jets suck. They're an embarrassment, and they're not going to make the postseason. We'll talk about that, and we'll get to the Jets coming up here in about 20 minutes. But I love Aaron, but, man, shut your mouth and go out and actually do something. Yeah. Do something. Yeah. Seriously, man. He's playing like garbage. And I don't want to hear about how the Jets' offense was better or they had a little more pop. All I know is they were penalized from here to freaking Timbuktu.
Yeah.
They were making a lot of mistakes out there.
Yeah,
a ton.
were.
And they couldn't get done in the red zone. You know what? Elite quarterbacks, guys like John Elway, the guys I like, they get it done in the red zone when it matters. They couldn't get it in the red zone. They couldn't make field goals. And can you please find a kicker? You kick in New York, you moron. Is Zerline acting like he's never seen wind before? It's really ridiculous. So we'll save it. I don't want to get too worked up on the Jets.
Yeah.
I've already got a lot of anxiety. I'm thankful your microphone's working today.
Me too.
It's really nice to come out on a Monday when you got one of the biggest games in the history of the state, and then Dwight's mic's not working. Haunted studios and all sorts of nonsense. Dan Lanning has addressed the game from Saturday. All the talk about the 12th man in the field. Was it a mistake after a timeout? Was he playing four-dimensional chess? Is he smarter than everybody else? Well, here's Lanning being asked the specific question. Now, he dances around it a little bit, but he makes it clear. Take a listen.
Much of the commentary world has decided and struck you as a genius, Stan, for the 12-man penalty and declared that it was intentional. Was it indeed intentional to induce the throw one-on-one against Jabbar in that spot?
It wasn't one-on-one. We actually had a safety on top, so there was so it's called dog. That's when you play, but he wasn't in extremely tight coverage, but he was in dog coverage where we had safety on top of him, and there was a timeout before that. We spent an enormous amount of time on situations. There's some situations that don't show up very often in college football, but this is one that obviously was something that we had worked on, so you can see the result.
He confirmed it. There you go.
It's like, how to admit you did it without really admitting you did it, right?
Yeah. You can see the result.
Yeah.
We took time off the clock, and in the end, Ohio State decided to take a little slide, and time ran out, game over, we win.
Yeah.
It's really a smart move. I'm getting a lot of people who are hitting me up saying, oh, and these are probably Beaver fans cloaked in something else, but they're really frustrated because they feel like Dan Lanning was cheating. Finding a loophole in the rules is not cheating. That's just using whatever situation you're in to the best of your abilities, taking advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you. They knew the rule book, they knew how the play would be called, and they knew the time would come off the clock. It's not cheating. It's just a genius maneuver by the coaching staff. Now, the weird part about this is, well, do you think it was cheating by Dan Lanning?
No, that's absurd. They didn't break any rules. If you don't break rules, you're not cheating, really.
I look at it like a guy standing on second base, and he understands the signs that are being communicated to the pitcher, or a pitcher tipping his pitches. Should I look and try to decode the signs if I'm on second base, if I know what it is? Yeah, why
Darn
not?
right you should.
Yeah. If you know that you can put a 12th man on the field and prevent a big play, and you're going to get a 5-yard penalty, but the time remains off the clock, why not do it? Because the only thing that could have gotten them beat was giving up a big gashing play to where the Buckeyes can call timeout and have a reasonable field goal. And so they took advantage of the situation, which I think is great. Now, apparently, when you beat Ohio State by circumventing the rules, changes are going to be made rather quickly. What's going on with that?
Well, I guess officiating supervisors from each conference meet every Wednesday.
Yeah.
And apparently there's a pretty good chance tomorrow that this rule is going to be altered a little bit. So that
They're going to do it in season.
Yeah, right now. They're going to do it like immediately. So I don't know. Maybe Dan maybe he should have said, nah, it was my mistake. I sent him out there. I hadn't counted. I thought we were one short. It was just a mistake. And maybe then they could have gotten away with one more chance to apply their expertise. But, eventually that rule had to get changed anyway. I think we all concede that the time should be put back on the clock. Right? I mean,
well, I really don't care what they do. Here's what I know about coaches. They're a little bit too arrogant not to admit to the great move.
Yeah. Well, they especially don't want to admit they made a mistake by allowing the 12th guy to go on after a timeout.
Yeah, because it would make themselves look ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, coaches, they're pretty full of themselves. Not just Dan Lanning, most of them are because, well, frankly, if I was coaching a football team that was near the top of the rankings and I was making millions a year, I'd be feeling pretty good about myself too.
Well, it was also a genius move, and you don't mind taking credit for genius move.
That was a great move.
Sure.
It won them the game.
Absolutely did.
It won them the freaking game. It's awesome. Now, I would say that if this happens against Idaho State, Nevada,
even?
Take your pick. If it happens to anyone not named Ohio State or Texas or Alabama or Georgia, the officials are not meeting and having a special conference to make sure that rule gets adjusted quickly.
Nobody would have even been watching anyway if they'd been playing those teams.
The difference is when you punk Ohio State, their fan base and their coaching staff and the powers to be with Ohio State, they make a noise. And it's really loud, and they have a lot of influence, and they're going to get this changed real quick because it happened to Ohio State, which is what makes it so great. The great Ohio State, all the nonsense that those idiot alums and former players talk about, they got punked. And they hate it, and it drives them crazy, and I'm going to celebrate that because I don't like Ohio State. Screw them.
Well, and the funny thing is, if they would have pulled that trick, it would have been, you dummies, we outsmarted you. We didn't do anything illegal. We just outsmarted you. You're stupid. You didn't even see what we did to you.
Yeah.
But now that the shoe's on the other foot, oh, my gosh, that's the most egregious thing anybody's ever done in football.
Well, my question is, in those type of situations, with the way the rule's been, why wouldn't more coaches do that? Seriously.
They never thought of it. Probably.
I got to admit, it's pretty genius.
The other thing, though, Chad, is I wonder how many times they have done it, and we just have sort of dismissed it, not realizing what they did.
Well, that's the other thing, too. It happened in the biggest game of the year.
Yeah.
On a massive stage with over 10 million people watching the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the ratings on that game were outrageously phenomenal. So, yeah, it's going to make noise in that type of situation, in an end-of-game situation. And the Ducks, I got to give them credit. They had to get a stop. They had to keep them out of field goal range. And they did it. They got the win, and it worked out. It was awesome. What a great game it was. Now, Lanning did have a quote on Trayshawn Holden. He said, in regards to the spitting incident, quote, extremely disappointed with his actions within the game. There's absolutely zero place for that in our program, zero place for that in football. I reached out to Coach Day. I expressed my frustration in that situation. I know Trayshawn's extremely apologetic. He's embarrassed. He realizes how wrong he was in that moment. And we will handle some things internally. There is some discipline that exists there, but I'm going to leave that for us internally to handle and communicate. Translation, he will play on Friday against Purdue. Right? That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think that they'd be wise to sit him out. It would look good if he sat him out. And I don't know that they'll need him against Purdue.
Well, they could sit a variety of players out in that game against Purdue and still win.
Yeah.
It's not just Holden. I think what they'll probably do, and it's not the only program, they may, in fact, sit him for the game. They're just not going to discuss it publicly because they don't want to drag his name through the mud any more than it already has.
Right.
So they'll handle it internally. He probably won't talk much about it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
He made his public apology. We read it yesterday. You read it.
He made it with ChatGPT. They analyzed it. 89% of the apology letter was ChatGPT. But I don't blame him. I mean, again, if you're young and you're going to put out a statement that the entire world's going to have access to, you probably want to ask someone how to write something to make sure that you get across every point you need to.
Yeah, I'm not even surprised. It could be that somebody on their staff wrote it using chat, using that, because I would have written it for him if I was coach. Here, let me help you with that. Here's what we want you to say.
The one thing I will say about Holden is I know a lot of people, a lot of people overreact to the situation. But the way I look at a guy like Holden, he's a youngster in college. And we want these players to be emotionally charged and all jacked up for a big-time game. Biggest game in the program's history. You got the fan base there, and you want these guys to play with passion. Well, when you're young and you've got that type of adrenaline and passion flowing, you're going to make mistakes. So while it was gross, you don't want to spit on an opponent. I don't think that was a premeditated thing. It was an in-the-moment, heat-of-the-battle type situation. Mm-hmm. And my guess is he probably, not long after he realized what he had done, he probably was like, man, I screwed that up bad. I'm guessing he realized real quick, like, I shouldn't have done that.
You think he realized it sometime after he threw his helmet while he was walking up the tunnel?
Yeah, I didn't care about the reaction when he threw his helmet in the tunnel. He was probably frustrated that he had done something completely stupid. We've all done that before. I've done some things that are just so dumb. Mm-hmm. I'll punch something or do something to myself. It's like, and just make the situation worse. Because you're like, how could I be such an idiot?
Yeah.
So, all right, there you go. That's the latest with Dan Lanning. The rule probably not going to be in place for the Purdue game. Maybe they won't put it in effect until Saturday so they can get it one more time on Friday night.
Yeah, they better hope they don't need it in the Purdue game.
All right, we'll come back and discuss the Jets. They got a new toy for Rodgers. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to hold himself accountable, but he'll blame everyone else for his problems. It's like, dude, you're a freaking Hall of Famer. So Devontae Adams to the Jets. The Raiders really suck, and they continue to show that with their maneuvers. And how about Amari Cooper now headed to the Bills? I thought Josh Allen was happy not having to worry about a star wide receiver until you realize you need a star wide receiver. So we'll discuss that as well. don't know if the Godfather's intentionally trying to really tick me off right now, but it's working.
I never know. That was a long time ago the decision was made. I didn't think you were still mad.
Well, we just had the start of the college football season. It took a few games, and I'm like, what the flip did they do that for? What did Albert Breer just tweet out?
He just basically wanted to know how Oklahoma could have let Dylan Gabriel go. He said, was it to keep some young kid from transferring? And he said, I'm curious. I just want to know.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. So Jackson Arnold, who was supposed to be the heir apparent and the guy that would step in and take over this year.
He was a freshman?
Yes, a 5-star recruit, big-time player, according to the recruiting guys. Well, the problem is, he played in the bowl game against Arizona, first start, and he was okay. He turned the ball over a couple times, but, he's a young guy. Who cares? Well, the problem is he came back this year, and it took about 3 games before they recognized that the offense had issues. And then in the Tennessee game, when they were getting curb stomped, they pulled him from the game and put in another young quarterback, Michael Hawkins Jr., who is an athlete, not necessarily a great quarterback yet, but a guy that competes a lot better than Jackson Arnold. So they made the move from Gabriel to Arnold, thinking that Arnold was going to be the next great thing, and it just hasn't worked out. So it's a total disaster. The reason why they let Gabriel walk, 2 reasons why. One, they had just lost their offensive coordinator, Jeff Levy, who was there for 2 years that Gabriel was there. He went to take over the head coaching job at Mississippi State. Well, they talked to Gabriel, and since he had 1 year of eligibility left, they knew he was going to be gone after the year. Had he stayed and played quarterback this year for Oklahoma, Jackson Arnold probably would have gone into the transfer portal. So you lose what you think at the time is your future quarterback. So at the time, even though I didn't like it, it made some sense based on how much time Gabriel had left. Plus, you allow Gabriel to go out, and it gives him an opportunity to find a school that is competing for a potential championship, and he can hopefully improve his draft stock. So it was a mutual...
And also make a little money in the...
Well, he was making money at Oklahoma, too. Right? Oklahoma pays well, too, just like Oregon. Big-time programs don't have a problem coming up with cash to keep a quarterback if needed. Well, Jackson Arnold sucks. And Dylan Gabriel, who I've been telling Duck fans now for months, including Justin Myers, but no one wanted to hear it, you're getting a phenomenal quarterback. He's the most experienced guy that's ever played the game. And he just put together one of the greatest games at quarterback in the history of Oregon in the win over Ohio State. He did something that Bo Nix never did, win a big game. Bo Nix had his chance against Washington, Oregon State. He couldn't get over in a big moment. Dylan Gabriel plays his best game ever against Ohio State. He's awesome. So Oklahoma, they screwed up here. Had they kept Gabriel, their offense wouldn't be a total disaster, and they wouldn't have gotten throttled by Texas like we saw in the game on Saturday. They had Texas backed up, and they turned it over early. They had, red zone trip after red zone trip in the first quarter, but they couldn't capitalize. They got 1 field goal out of it. Why? Because their quarterback stinks. It's brutal. But I'm glad Gabriel made the move because Oregon's a better team. They have a better offensive line. They have better weapons this year. It's a better situation for Gabriel. And now he's going to go to the playoff and be on a high stage to where all the scouts are going to have a chance to look at him, and hopefully he'll be able to improve his draft stock. I think last year he was projected to be like a 7th-round pick, somewhere late NFL draft. Hopefully he can improve that this year. The problem is he's undersized, and he's a lefty. Mm-hmm. So those are going to be hard things to overcome. But my guess is, based on his play, he's going to be in the Heisman race. He'll be able to improve his draft stock from what it was last year to this year. So that's why. Jackson Arnold was the reason why. You keep Gabriel for 1 more year because that's all the eligibility he got. Mm-hmm. Arnold transfers, you don't have your future quarterback. Well, the problem is Arnold sucks, and now they don't have a quarterback anyways, and they could have at least enjoyed Gabriel for 1 more year. That's all. And Gabriel would have been nice to have when you're transitioning into a brand new conference for the first time playing SEC football to have stability at the quarterback position. He would have helped because he's a leader, as we're seeing with the Ducks. It didn't take Gabriel long to assimilate and connect with his teammates at Oregon. You talk to anyone in the program, he stepped in, connected, created bonds right away. And that's, I think, Gabriel's presence has been very helpful as they've gone through the early season offensive struggles, too. You know how these recruiters are. There's never a guarantee in the draft or when it comes to recruiting. You just never know. You think a guy's good, and then you get him out there with live bullets, and it's like he's not processing quickly enough. He doesn't get rid of the ball quick enough. He makes bad decisions. He's not on target with his throws. He turns it over, and it doesn't take long to realize, like, we messed up here.
Yeah, we've seen it at Oregon over the years until recently. They recruit high 4- and 5-star recruits, and it turns out they're not as good as some of the people that were 3 stars.
I agree.
It's happened over and over to Oregon. You have to be a little more discerning than just look up in some book and see 5 stars next to a guy's name.
Yeah, and the other problem, too, is that, Gabriel, and especially with this COVID thing, where these guys get extra, eligibility time.
Yeah.
Gabriel's there aren't too many Dylan Gabriels walking around. In terms of college quarterbacks, he's about as good as you can get. In terms of experience, accuracy, leadership, production, you might want to think twice about just letting a guy like that walk. That would be my opinion, because I love Gabriel, though. I'm a big fan.
They're pretty down this year, though, at Oklahoma. How much difference would he have made in that team, Chad?
A lot. Because if you watch Hawkins or Arnold, you realize real quick what the real problem is. Even good quarterbacks with bad offensive lines produce, because they get rid of the football quicker. They make better decisions. They know where to go with the ball, and they can lead their younger players. Plus, guys on the team believe in the quarterback. And, Jackson Arnold, when he's out there, guys around him, they don't believe in him. And that's a big deal in football. I remember talking to Lo Neal. I think he said it was Keely Smith when he was in Cincinnati. Keely Smith was a great college quarterback, and he's a great guy. Didn't have a good NFL career. But Lo said when he stepped into the huddle, all the vets were like, oh, crap, we're done. Because they knew. You just know about a guy pretty quickly. Oh, well. At least Oregon gets the benefit off of the greatness of Dylan Gabriel for this year.
I didn't mean to make you mad.
That's irritating. I hate it, especially for guys I really like. Like there are some athletes that I enjoy watching play, but then there's certain guys that have that right combination where I'm like, I love the guy and I love the player. Fun to watch. Really productive. He's one of those guys. Oregon's very fortunate to get him. They went from Bo Nix to Dylan Gabriel. That's not a bad transition.
Yeah. And talk about experienced quarterbacks. Guys with
the two most experienced quarterbacks ever.
Yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable. All right, let's take a listen to, let's talk about this game last night. The Jets lose 23-20, and the game was a total mess. We'll get to the penalties in just a moment, but I told you at the top of the show what frustrates me about the New York Jets right now, Godfather. It's Aaron Rodgers, because I hold him in high esteem. He's a great quarterback, and I know he's later in years, but the Jets brought him in because they thought he was the missing piece.
Yeah.
What I don't need is Aaron Rodgers underperforming and not getting the job done late in games or in the red zone, and then throwing everyone else under the bus, whether it's the head coach or one of his receivers. It's like, Aaron, here's what great quarterbacks do. And I saw Elway do this. We see it with Patrick Mahomes. They'll have games where things don't go well and they lose, and there are certain guys who don't run the right route or do the right thing. What do you think those guys do? They say, you know what, that's on me. I've got to be better. Even though they could easily throw the receiver under the bus for running the wrong route.
No, the good ones cover for everybody.
They do, because that's what you have to do in that position as a leader. And Aaron Rodgers, for some reason, he can't bring himself to do that. And, let's take a listen. This is the interception here. Take a listen.
There's 2 verticals, Allen's down the seam, Mike's down the red line. So I'm looking at Allen. He puts his hand up, 3 guys go with him, so I'm throwing a no-look to the red line. And when I just peek my eyes back there, he's running an inbreaker. So it's got to be down the red line. I was throwing to the red line, but when I got to about here, I realized he was running an inbreaker, so I had to kind of adjust it a little bit. But the play is 2 guys vertical, 1 guy down the seam, 1 guy on the red line.
All right, he just broke down the play perfectly, but he threw Mike Williams under the bus.
He did.
You know what, Aaron? I frankly don't care who ran the wrong route. Your offense that you're in charge of is not getting the job done. In fact, your offense is so crappy it got the head coach fired. And you might have played a part in that too. I just want Aaron Rodgers to just at least defend his teammates. But that's not the way he operates. He's a little bit different. I just get tired of it, man. And then you look at the Jets, the penalties and the mistakes. They were better on offense last night, but the penalties and the mental errors and the red zone inefficiency, it's like, yeah, they were better, but they still didn't produce. It's really tiring. The Jets are exhausting. I can't imagine being a Jet fan.
I think Aaron Rodgers is turning into LeBron James. It's like, wasn't my fault. And by the way, I need help. You got to get some more guys in here. Get my buddies in here. Those guys know how to play with me. Let's bring all these guys in from Green Bay. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's bring all of them in here.
Yeah.
And it's like a lack of accountability here.
Yeah.
When they got him, He was the last piece of the puzzle. You said it earlier. We got the defense. We got the line. We got good, young running backs. We got receivers. We got everything. Yeah. All we need is the quarterback. Well, you got the quarterback. How's that working out?
Exactly. You know me, I'm quick to praise elite level quarterbacks. I love them. So I'm going to hold them to a higher standard.
That, right?
Yeah. I hold those type of quarterbacks to a higher standard. Patrick Mahomes last year, with that young receiving core, it was giving him headaches because they were screwing it up all over the place. But he never threw guys under the bus the whole year, and he could have easily.
Yeah, but it worked for him, too.
Yeah, because they continued to work with him in practice. Andy Reid coached him up. And in the end, they got better.
Yeah.
And they won a championship. You just, I don't know.
I don't know if they got better, but they got good enough.
They got good enough.
Yeah, that's right. And he can get you the ball when you're just good enough. You don't have to be great.
Here is Jeff Ulbrich, the Jets interim coach, talking about the 2 missed kicks by Greg Zuerlein.
I mean, everything you take a hard look at, but I'm not concerned with Greg. You know, I know the track record of this man, and I know he's going to catch his rhythm here, and we're going to roll.
That's coach speed. You're 100% behind the guy until you cut him.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be.
He missed a key field goal against the Broncos, which would have won the game. He missed 2 last night. That's a game you got to win, but he really screwed him with those 2 missed kicks. Yeah. And look, when you kick in New York or certain conditions, he's got to be better than that. It reminds me of a guy that's got a little push fade on the driver that's going leaking a little bit too far right. Make the adjustment, knob.
Yeah.
What are you doing out there?
Now, that's what disturbed me is that both kicks hit the left upright, which is impossible to do if you're trying to do it. You couldn't do that in a million years. Back to back, hitting the upright. But make an adjustment. If the first kick is left, too far left, I'd feel better if you hit the right upright. At least you're trying to make an adjustment. Just turn a little bit. You don't have to make a huge adjustment, but this guy's a pro kicker. I don't get that, Chad. Hit that same upright twice in a row on short. Those were short kicks. We're not asking the guy to go 60 yards here.
No, you got to make the kicks. It's unacceptable. 32-yarder Troy Aikman said it best. You got to make the kick.
Yeah.
You're an NFL kicker.
That's what you're there for.
Unbelievable. That stuff drives you crazy, too. So the Jets went out today and made the move official. They acquire Devontae Adams from the Raiders. It's a conditional 3rd-round pick. So if he's first or second team All-Pro, or if he starts in the AFC title game or Super Bowl, it becomes a second. That seems fair. And if you're the Jets, if he's starting in the AFC title game or the Super Bowl, they couldn't care less about what they gave up to get Devontae Adams.
Exactly right.
The problem is when you look at the Jets' schedule, they have a number of easy games, but I don't know if 9 wins is going to be enough to get you into the postseason in the AFC this year because the conference is so ultra competitive.
Yeah.
So we'll see how things continue to shake out with the Jets. The one thing I do know, they've lost 3 straight games, and they're not playing like a playoff team right now. Maybe Adams helps solidify the offense. We'll see, but I'm not buying on the Jets right now. I think they're too much of a disaster, and Aaron Rodgers lacks the accountability right now that he needs to be able to go out there and lead this team. So I would expect them to fall flat. And the Bills, they have their own issues too. They're not exactly flying high, but Devontae Adams will help. There's no question because he's great. Aaron Rodgers and Adams are on the same page. My guess is that he'll add some extra pop to the offense. But if they're continuing to be penalized time and time again, it may not matter. Last night in the game, 22 penalties accepted. There were 26 total.
That's way too many.
What's the solution?
I don't know, Chad.
Do you think they're calling too many penalties in spots because they're so worried about the hyper-focus with the gambling now, where if you don't throw a flag on an obvious penalty that you're going to get called out for it? Is that part of it?
Yeah, I thought of that. That's possible. That's possible. Or these teams just, I mean.
What an unwatchable event when you got flags flying on every play.
It's terrible. So what do? Tell the referees, don't call as many penalties. So, okay, now I have to decide. Then it becomes like the NBA where, okay, that's a foul, but I'm not going to call that right now. You know, and that's no good. That doesn't work very well.
Or is it the Bills and Jets are so undisciplined that they had to
possible.
throw the flags? Here's Josh Allen sharing his thoughts on the penalties.
Large number of penalties on both sides tonight. Was it hard to get into a rhythm?
Yeah, I think in that second half, just being behind the sticks, first and 15, 1st and 20, doing that too many times. We had false starts, legal formations, just stuff that, we need to clean up, and we'll look at the film and take it from there. But ultimately, that's on my shoulders, so I got to be better for us there.
Josh Allen, here's Aaron Rodgers.
Can you just talk a little bit about the penalties tonight?
Yeah, it seemed a little ridiculous. Some of them seemed really bad, including the roughing the passer on me. That's not roughing the passer. I was about to play sarcastic ball if we're going to call those things. And I thought the one on Kinlaw was not roughing the passer either.
There you go. Both quarterbacks thought it was a bit excessive. That was a great play by Allen on the third down play to get the first down in the game. I don't know if that was a design play for him to run off the left side.
I don't think so.
I think he peeked over there and saw it open, and he just took off with the football.
That's what makes him good, I think, his ability to do that. He's not an easy guy to tackle either.
All right. Here's any reason that we have to throw the Raiders under the bus, I'm here for it. So Andrew Brandt put this out. Raiders acquired Adams for a first and second round pick. The Raiders traded Adams for a third round pick. Buy high, sell low.
Yeah, that's quite a way to do business, isn't it?
Nice work, morons. They bring in Adams because he wants to play with Derek Carr. Then Josh McDaniels got rid of Derek Carr. Then Adams becomes upset, and they end up sending him off for a third round pick.
But don't worry. Guess what? Tom Brady got approved today for his, 10% ownership share in the Las Vegas Raiders.
Good for him.
So everything's going to go smooth from now on, Chad.
Well, hopefully, you know what? I mean, normally with minority owners, I wouldn't be like, hey, give that guy a voice. Bullcut might be he might be served well by including Brady in on some of the discussions.
Yeah, might be a good idea.
He probably knows a thing or two about football that could be helpful, right? Oh, my gosh. Amari Cooper, trade went down between the Browns and Bills today. So it's funny because all the Bills fans and even Josh Allen with Diggs no longer there, like, oh, it's great now. Well, apparently it's not because they just went out and made a deal to bring in Amari Cooper because they didn't have talent on the outside.
Yeah.
And they've really looked, I mean, the Bills, they haven't beaten a good team this year, and they've been very sloppy with their play. So they got work to do to get to where they want to be.
Do you think Amari Cooper will have more impact in Buffalo than Devontae Adams will have in New York? Simply because they don't have anybody even close to Cooper in Buffalo. They really need that. The Jets, they got Wilson, who's pretty good. They've got receivers.
I think Adams will have a bigger impact because I guarantee that Aaron Rodgers is going to throw him the ball constantly.
Yeah, like 30 times a game.
He's going to be targeted like 100 times a game. So that's why. It's the connection between Rodgers and Adams that would lead me to believe he'll be more effective. But in that offense, because the Bills have, if they're running the football with Josh Allen, he'll have moments where he's going to make a difference. I like Amari Cooper. I was down in the Bay Area when the Raiders drafted him. I like his makeup. He's a good locker room guy. He'll be a quality addition to the team. He's just a little bit older in his career now.
Yeah, he won't be whining about probably.
No, but you know what? What I've learned about wide receivers, most of the great ones, they all whine a lot. I think that's part of what makes them great is they're like, look, you got to throw me the ball. I'm going to make a play for you. As quarterbacks, you just have to learn to deal with that. I think Diggs took it a little too far when he's undressing the quarterback on the sideline.
Yeah, that is a step
you know what I'm saying? But a lot of the receivers like Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman would get into it from time to time.
Yeah, for sure.
Shannon Sharp was always barking at John Elway.
Yes. Yeah.
So I like that. I just don't want my star wide receiver going after the team leader and franchise quarterback on the sideline. If you want to have a discussion, Josh will be happy to talk with you, but don't act like a freaking weirdo on the sideline.
Yeah, with helmets on and all, it's pretty easy to get an argument going, and people wouldn't even know you were having it.
Heck, even Tom Brady made it work with Antonio Brown to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I like Cooper. He's going to help. And the Bills need it because they haven't been super sharp this year. But there's plenty of time. Like we've learned with the Ducks this year. How you play in early October is not the most important thing. It's where you're at come December that matters in the NFL, being at your best.
Sure.
Like the Chiefs right now, they're nowhere near where they want to be, but they've got room to get better. All right, we have a pair of tickets to give away for your Portland Trailblazers, and we'll make it easy on you. The third caller right now at 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620 will get a pair of tickets to see the Trailblazers and Ratio Farm at Moda Center tomorrow night. Tip-off at 7. Call now. And for all of your Trailblazer ticket needs, simply head over to trailblazers.com, and there's still time for you to take part in the season opener right now. which is coming up on the 23rd against the Golden State Warriors. Go to trailblazers.com. So if you want a pair of tickets for the preseason game tomorrow night, 503, fire away! 503-248-0620. We want to hear from a Trailblazer fan.
In Sherwood.
All right, coming up at 4:38 on TBS, True TV, and Max. Guardians and Yankees, Game 2 of the ALCS. Yankees have a 1-game-to-none lead in the series. What are you thinking for Game 2? Any chance for the Indians to get a win in New York?
I think it's going to be tough on the Guardians, Chad. I think it's going to be a real difficult series for them. Yankees play so well in their own ballpark, and they seem to have their pitching straightened out. They're getting pretty good pitching now from several people, and I don't know. If Cleveland can get the game to their bullpen and be ahead, they've got a chance because their bullpen's great and they have the best closer in baseball. But I don't know. So much is on Stephen Kwan to get on base. He's their guy that makes everything work. And the games they've won, he's had like 3 hits and been on base all the time and scored runs. And without him getting on, this is not a home run team. They're the one team in it that doesn't hit a lot of home runs. They're kind of a singles team, move people up, and then play good defense and get good pitching. So we'll just see. They might be a little overmatched by the Yankees, though. I think we're headed toward Yankee-Dodger World Series.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think everybody does. It would be a great series.
It would be phenomenal. I've been wanting this for the last couple of years. I want to see Ohtani and Judge on the same stage in the October Classic. I don't think that's too much to ask for as a sports fan. We all want that.
Yeah, I think it would make for great television ratings.
All right, the Oregon Ducks are going to take on the Purdue Boilermakers coming up on Friday. The Ducks on the road, a 27.5-point favorite. That game will be on Fox. And, well, let's take a listen to Purdue coach Ryan Walters. He was asked what jumps out on the tape when he takes a look at Oregon. My apologies for the audio quality.
Yeah.
I can't control Purdue and their crappy sound system, all right?
Not very good.
No, they are in the Big Ten, but they have a sound system like they're part of the Mountain West or
Big
something.
Sky Conference, I think.
Yeah. What, Portland State hook you up with the sound system, morons? Be
Portland
better.
State's is better than that.
Hey, they got to win.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you didn't think they were going to get a win this year. They
No,
did.
I didn't say that.
You did say that.
I did not say
I
that.
think you said
Their quarterback I think their quarterback was National Player of the Year at that level. He was fantastic.
I'm all about Barney getting wins. Whatever
Yeah.
it takes for Barney to get wins.
Yeah.
I just saw the score. I was like, oh, good job. Good for you, Portland State. Nice win for the Vikes. Maybe you said, I think the exact phrasing when we were discussing Barney was, it's going to be hard for him to get a win this year.
Yeah, I could have said that because they have some pretty tough teams ahead of the schedule.
All right, here's Ryan Walters talking about the Dicks.
Man, they are talented, very, very talented. Big, physical, fast. They got, at every position they got playmakers. They shoot. They're the number 2 team in the country right now, and for a reason, right? They just beat Ohio State at home in a close, competitive ball game. I know Dan Lanning. He's a great coach. He does things the right way, and his guys are always competitive and tough and physical. So it'd be a great match.
There you go, Ryan Walters.
He's being very smart, Chad. Be real nice to the program, throw a few bouquets at the head coach, and maybe he'll call the dogs off in the third quarter.
He doesn't want Lanning to hang half a hundy on him. He's trying to be kind.
Yeah.
I've always wanted a coach who's heavily favored, like Dan Lanning, for instance. I've been wanting this ever since I used to listen to Lou Holtz talk about Navy being just an incredible opponent, right? Because I always knew that was a bunch of garbage. Even young Chad was like, what's this guy talking about?
Yeah.
Barry Switzer was the closest I've seen where he would joke about it hanging half a hundy on. Like the Big 8, it had Nebraska and Oklahoma, and then he said the division where you hang half a hundy on. And his players knew that because he told them that all the time. I just want coaches to be real. I'm tired of the coach speak, right? I'd love a coach to come out and be like, look, man, I've looked at the film, and frankly, we're going to kick their ass. We own an advantage in every aspect of the game. But no coach will ever say that because it's not considered gentlemanlike. It's not genteel, right?
I think the closest guy in football right now is Campbell at Detroit. He seems like a loose enough cannon that we're going to Dallas, baby. Yeah. We're going to try to get 50 on him.
He is mentally unstable, and so I
don't know about that.
I think he might be.
Really?
Yeah. I love Dan Campbell, too. And they were trying to run it up. They were running trick plays up by like 40.
I know.
They don't care.
Yeah, they're doing all kinds. They're throwing tackle eligibles and stuff like that.
No, it's
they're
the
trying
best.
to get Penei Sewell a touchdown.
But Ryan Walters right there, he almost went the opposite direction. Like, look, man,
Yeah.
I've looked at the film. I'm just going to prepare everyone who's going to be at the game on Friday. We done. You know.
But they do the right things. They play the right way. He's a great coach.
Yeah. Gosh, it's got to be tough. Like when you're as a coaching staff, there's got to be games, and they would never admit to this publicly, but they look at the film and they're like, holy crap, what can we do?
And they've taken some pretty big whippings anyway. And
They already
haven't
lost
played
at
the
Oregon State.
Yes, they haven't played the likes of the Ducks yet.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that, Coach. At least they're playing at home. Home field advantage,
Oh,
baby.
there you go. Chad, home field advantage.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here. When we come back, I'm going to play some Jerry Jones audio. People like to criticize Jerry. I think the world needs more Jerrys in the world. That's what I think. And more owners willing to get behind a microphone and just have open conversation without scripts.
I love that.
I pulled out a 6-minute. He's just unbelievable. He's the only owner that's got the nuts to have a full-length 24-minute conversation on talk radio.
Yeah.
And defend his stance on certain things, and he'll admit when he's wrong. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll take a listen to Jera, and we got more tickets to give away. I'll do that before we get to Jera. How does that sound? We got tickets for Friday night's game against the Utah Jazz, so you can go and be surrounded by some annoying Jazz fans at Moda. That's coming up next. All right, what's going on, my friends? Chad here. The Portland Trailblazers in action tomorrow night. Rashio Farm in town. Tip-off from Moda at 7. Chris Burkhardt has Blazers game day starting at 5. It's a Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday here on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. We got more tickets coming up next, and at 4:45, your chance to see the Utah Jazz and New Orleans Pelicans at Moda. Game 2 of the ALCS coming up in 38 minutes from Yankee Stadium. BB and Cole is on the bump. New York took game 1, and Cleveland looking to even up that series. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you next. We're going to talk with Sean Highkin of Rose Garden Report at 4:20. Yeah, Shacker and I were just reminiscing when this music video came out for the first time. The guy's walking on water. I have no idea how he's walking on water. Little Chad couldn't figure those things out. All right, we have a pair of tickets to give away. This game will be for Friday's preseason finale against the Utah Jazz. I almost said New York Jets. I'm so frustrated with the Jets that they're in my mind right now. For all of your Trailblazer ticket needs, you can simply go over to trailblazers.com, and they still have tickets available for the opener on the 23rd, Godfather, against the Golden State Warriors. And it's going to be a T-shirt giveaway night presented by Moda with really sweet red Rip City T-shirts. So your chance to take part in opening night, simply head over to trailblazers.com. What number is Aaron Rodgers? 8?
Yeah.
All right. In honor of the cranky supposed franchise quarterback who likes to throw everyone under the bus, we're going to take caller 8 right now. 503-248-0620. I don't want to hear from any Jet fans, but if you're a Blazer fan and you want to see the Jazz and Trailblazers in person at Moda coming up on Friday, tip off at 7. Call now, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Light them up right now. And the 8th caller will get a pair of tickets for the game coming up on Friday. And then we have a pair for the Pelicans game on the 27th that we're going to give away at 4:45. 503-248. Call now! 503-248-0620. 8th caller. Come on now. Keep coming, phones. 8th caller, 503-248-0620. We'll get a pair of tickets for the Jazz and Trailblazers Friday night at Moda Center. There we go. Nice work. It didn't take long for the phones to light up. We have another pair because we care about people. We got another pair, 3 pairs today.
Chad, we're all about the people.
We are all about the people. We're also going to talk about our trip over to Moda today before the show.
Oh, yeah.
They had a special event for season ticket holders and media where they invited us over today at 12:30. They called it Taste of Moda Center. And it was really a great setup in the Rose Room where you got to walk around. And it was kind of like a flea market, but it was a high fancy flea market where they had different tables set up with all the different food options that you're going to find inside of Moda Center this year.
Yeah.
I had I don't want to get into it yet. Let's just put it this way. We ate well.
Yes, we did.
And I met an Oklahoma brother. Random encounter with an Oklahoma brother.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Small world. I'm like, wait a second. You're from where? Get out of here. Sure enough. Yeah, he was talking Oklahoma. I was talking Oklahoma, and I was like, only someone that has been there could know some of the stuff he knew, which was cool. His name was Chris. It was a nice little conversation.
Yeah, nice guy.
Okay, I got to play it all because I want you to hear it all, but Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys, He goes on weekly on 105.3 The Fan down in Dallas. That's the same station that Gavin Dawson, our former partner, works for.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that Jerry Jones is willing to go on radio and have just an unscripted discussion about his team and State of the Union address. It's amazing to me. Love it. And he does it willingly. He wants to engage.
Yeah.
And he does it for the fans because he knows that they want to hear from him.
Well, I think he likes to set the record straight, too. He hears a lot of stuff being talked about him, and he goes on the air and sets the record straight.
Yeah. So take a listen to this portion where he basically was like, hey, I'll get new guys to ask me questions. He talked about scouting and getting players and took accountability for certain things. It's pretty wild, but take a listen to Jarrah. He cusses a couple of times, too, so I apologize for that. But when you're old and you're 82 years old, you can say a damn here and there, and it's okay.
From this past off season and building the team we're talking about today, which there was a lot of criticism that you guys didn't add, didn't spend, and don't add and don't spend, and are not aggressive enough with some of the problems that are still haunting the Cowboys today that we see play out on the field. That's the point of talking about the off season.
I remember those criticisms very well. Okay, so what?
Or are they playing out to be accurate?
What's your point? What's your point?
My point is, it seems like
Listen, let me tell you what I'll do. Let me tell you what I'll do about it. I will let us sit down and look at the decisions we've made over the last several years. Okay? I'll look at it. Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not. And I really don't, and I don't even want our listeners to listen to me, to talk about, this is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask why.
Job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
Jerry,
okay. Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong and without going over the rights?
Well,
now, listen, we both know we're talking to a lot of great fans and a lot of great listeners. And I am very sorry for what happened out there Sunday. I'm sick about what happened Sunday. Now, I'm not talking to these yahoos on the end of this phone. I'm talking to you, the fans that are listening this morning. And we can spend a lot of time going over zigging and zagging. One of the stupidest things I've ever done that anybody has ever analyzed is by the Cowboys. It was an idiot that did that. So idiot things can turn into good decisions. Okay? Smart things can turn into bad decisions. The facts are that when you make one, you don't really know whether it's going to be good or not at the time. So let's just go ahead. I'm trying to answer your questions, man. You want some conversation this morning? You're getting it.
Jerry Jones here on The Fan. Jerry, you worried about fan apathy setting in?
Well, I'm not worried about fan apathy. If you saw the letters and things I'm getting, that's the last thing from apathy. You're seeing very, very keen, intense passion about what we're not doing and concern about what we're doing. And that's the reason that I love this thing, is because you have that kind of passion. I love the passion. And I'm nobody more passionate than our Dallas Cowboy fans. Now, I'll assure you one thing, and I know you guys know it. I'm not afraid to make decisions. And I can live with anything that we're talking about as far as criticism about those decisions. What I'm going to worry about is whether those decisions can pan out in a positive way. You've got a lot of reasons why they don't. And you got a lot of teams up here looking around at some of the decisions they've made over the last few years. Just because everybody else is making bad decisions doesn't mean that justifies you making a bad decision.
You say you
so
don't...
We can go into this. I'm saying what I'm saying. Don't tell me what I'm saying.
Okay.
You listen to what I'm saying.
Jerry, why are you getting so mad at us? We're just asking you why the blowouts are happening, the historical differences at home. We're just asking about it on behalf of the fans, and you're getting real ticked off and mad at us. We're just
I'm not. Hey, can I tell you something, guys? I don't get mad at people that I can not be with if I don't want to be with. I don't get mad. You're asking me for a response, and I'm giving you a response.
There you go. That's freaking awesome. Everything about that was great.
Even telling the guy who's going to get him fired if he doesn't ask the right questions.
What I love about that is that Jerry doesn't want someone to kiss his ass pre-interview and hand him questions or whatever. He wants some give and take.
Yeah.
If your criticisms or questions are fair, he's more than happy to answer them. It just amazes me that he does that. The guy's 82 years old.
Well, forget his age. No other owner does this.
Yeah.
That I can think of. Mark Cuban maybe once in a while.
Yeah. So we were talking about Rodgers and accountability, right? How he likes to throw everyone else under the bus. If you're Jera and you're going to make decisions and be the owner and the de facto GM and be that guy, then you have to be willing to answer questions. At least he does that.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I'm certain of, and this is the most important thing that I take away from this, he might be crazy and he might make bad decisions, but gosh, he cares.
Yeah.
He wants to win so bad. He apologized to the fans for what happened on Sunday. He's like, it makes me sick.
It probably does.
It does. And that's what I respected about Paul. Like, did Paul was every decision Paul made good? No.
No, but he cared.
He cared.
He cared a lot.
A lot.
And
it drove him crazy.
We missed that, frankly.
Yeah, so I know people are quick to criticize. I'm very slow to criticize an owner who spends all the money, who writes the checks, who wants to be involved. It's not my place to tell them they shouldn't be involved.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to be involved like Jared, then at least go on. That was a 24-minute radio interview that he did. That's crazy from an owner in today's world.
Yeah.
Most of them hide. They don't want any part of that. Jared's out there 24 minutes on live radio.
Yeah, he's not afraid to take him to task either.
He did. He called up Gavin one night, and he's like, hey, and he got on him. He's like, I don't like anything you're saying. Here's why. And challenged him. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
It's awesome. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll come back. Sean Hike and Rose Garden Report. We'll get the latest on who's going to be available in the game tomorrow night. How's Shaden Sharp look putting up shots over at the practice facility with the labral tear? What's his impression on Donovan Clingan? I heard a phrase today I'd never heard of before, so I'll find out what that means. Sean Hike and Rose Garden Report up next. All right, Trailblazers will be in action tomorrow. Ratio Farm will be at Moda Center, tip-off at 7. Final preseason game Friday, Utah Jazz are in town. That game will tip off at 7. And tickets are still available for the opener against the Golden State Warriors on the 23rd. Just simply go to trailblazers.com. It's going to be a T-shirt night, and it's going to be a fun night with Steph Curry in town. Joining us right now on the Rip City Drive from Rose Garden Report is Sean Highkin. You can follow him on X at Highkin. Sean, it's great to have you back on the show. Let's start with this, with Rachel Farm being in town tomorrow. Which Trailblazers will be available for the game?
So Matisse Thybulle, no, for sure. And then obviously Shaden Sharp and Robert Williams, who have been out with injuries for most of training camp. But other than that, I mean, Anthony Simons, who didn't play in the first 2 preseason games, Chauncey Billups said today at practice that he could go tomorrow, and he went through most of practice today. So it seems like the ankle thing that he missed the first couple of games with was just kind of a minor precautionary thing if there's a chance that he plays tomorrow. But other than that, everybody's going to go. I had kind of thought that because it was a game against a non-NBA team, maybe like Jeremy Grant or DeAndre Ayton or some of the more veteran guys would just sit out and just let some of the young guys go. But it sounds like everybody that's available tomorrow is going to go. So we're just kind of waiting to hear on Anthony Simons.
Sean, what do you know about the visiting team? I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it. I'd leave to the I surrender to my host on that. But what do you know about them? Have they played any NBA teams yet?
Well, the thing to know about them is that there's 2 guys on the team, Ben Suraf, who's a guard from Israel, and then Noah Sangwe, who's a French wing. Both of those guys are projected lottery picks for next season, for next summer. So maybe one of those guys will end up in Portland next year. So I mean, if there's a reason, I mean, there's really, as far as like looking at, watching one of these games, like there's not much you're going to learn about the Blazers playing against a non-NBA team. But these, when there's 2 guys on the visiting team that are potential lottery picks, that's something that's worth watching. So that would be the main thing I would say.
We're talking with Sean Highkin, Rose Garden Report, here on the Rip City Drive. Let's start with this. Rough opener in Seattle on Friday for Scoot Henderson. What did you think about the bounce-back performance? 17 points, 7 assists, 1 turnover against Sacramento on Sunday.
As far as like on a couple of those drives, it seemed like he didn't really know what he was going to do once he got to the rim, and so there were some kind of bad shots there. But overall, I thought he was much better than he was on Friday in the opener. So it's all just kind of stuff to build off of, and we'll see how he looks in the last couple of preseason games, but. It definitely wasn't just a repeat of Friday in the game on Sunday.
Sean, people are telling me Toumani Camara is looking bigger, stronger, even better, maybe shooting the ball better. What are you seeing from him so far?
I think Toumani has been their best player through the first 2 preseason games at both ends of the floor.
Wow.
And yeah, the shooting that you just brought up there, Dwight. That's a big thing. That I remember. I'm probably going to write something about this in the next few days. But I remember kind of near the end of last season, after he had a good offensive game, he said something about how he doesn't want to be a liability on offense because he's, throughout his rookie season, he was kind of mainly known as a defensive guy, and his offense kind of came and went. But that's been a lot more consistent in the preseason. Now it's just the preseason, so, who knows if that's going to carry over once the real games start next week. But I would say that out of all the guys on the team, the guy that you can point to the most and say, this is encouraging, this guy might be like a long-term guy to build with, I think Toumani Camara is the guy that has probably had himself the best preseason so far.
Hey, Sean, Chauncey Billups wants his team to play fast. He's made that clear. What are your thoughts on the pace through 2 games?
They've been trying to play faster, but I'll also say that, and, I might even defer to Dwight on this, who's been covering the NBA a lot longer than I have, but can you ever remember a training camp where the coach doesn't say we want to play faster? That's like the free space on the bingo card is when the coach says, "Oh yeah, we're trying to push the pace, we're trying to play faster." Now so far they have been. It seems like that's been something that they've made a concerted effort to do, but we'll see if that happens. It's just like it's like the coach version of when a player comes in and is like, "Oh yeah, I've added 15 pounds of muscle over the summer." Like it's a nice thought, and yeah, it would be good if they did play faster, but we'll see if that carries over.
Yeah, you got that figured out, Sean. Let me ask you about Klingon. What are you seeing so far out 2 games with him?
he's been solid. I mean, I think, there've been a couple of rookie things, like, in the first game he had a couple of bad fouls that Chauncey Billups said was because he had his hands too low going for steals, which is not what he wants him to do on the defensive end. But so far, I thought he was been pretty plug and play. He comes in, he, discourages guys from driving to the rim. He rebounds. He's able to finish. He's making some good passes when he gets the ball at the top of the key. He's making good reads. I think he's been pretty, like, he hasn't done anything that's just completely blown you away, but he's been pretty plug and play. And so far it seems like he's just kind of doing what he's supposed to do. So I think he is kind of exactly where they expected him to be, this early in his career. But, I certainly think he's been solid for, what the expectations were.
Follow-up question to that, Sean. How much do you think he's going to play? Do you think there'll be a commitment to getting him on the floor frequently or every game, or what's the situation with his playing time, do you think?
I don't think he's going to play as much this season as maybe people want him to, just for the bigger reason. It's not first of all, they just have a lot of centers, and DeAndre Ayton is going to start, and there's still a thought that Robert Williams could be back at the start of the season, so he'll have to play, and then Duop Reith is still in the mix, so they have a crowded center rotation as it is. But the other thing about it is just that physically and conditioning wise, it's going to take time and probably take most of the year, frankly, for Donovan to get into the kind of shape he needs to be and to play as many minutes as you would expect a starter to play, because he is coming from playing 40 games in college for the last 2 years. Now he's playing an 82-game NBA season. And when he was at UConn last year, he only played 22 minutes a game, so it's not like he was playing entire games at UConn. Just when somebody's as big as he is physically, it's going to be a little bit of a ramp up to get his conditioning to where it needs to be. He played 19 minutes in the first preseason game against the Clippers, and I think that's kind of on the high end of what he's going to be playing this season. So I think they're definitely not in a rush to say, okay, we need to throw this guy out there for 35 minutes a game. But he'll get out there. I don't think he's going to be just picking up DNPs if he's productive in the minutes that he's out there, but I would say probably 10 to 15 minutes a game is what's reasonable to expect from him most nights.
Sure. We're talking with Sean Hike and Rose Garden Report here on the Rip City Drive. I saw the report that Trailblazers added James Bouknight. I'm unfamiliar with the Exhibit 10 contracts. For those who don't know, can you give us a breakdown on what that means with James Bouknight?
Well, so it's basically just it's a non-guaranteed training camp deal, and basically what it is usually what that happens, and they've done a couple of these. Henry Drell, who is this guy from Estonia who's been on the Bulls G League team the last couple of years, that's one that they signed and then waived. And usually what that means is that Exhibit 10 is basically a type of training camp contract where once the team waives you, they also keep your G League rights. And so if they're signing and waiving guys right away who are on these Exhibit 10 deals, that basically just means these are guys that they want to have on the remix. So they basically sign them to this contract. They get a small bonus. I think it's like $10,000 or something. It's not a crazy amount of money. But then they basically signed him and are going to waive him pretty soon to have his rights for their G League team. So that's really all that is.
Okay, let me ask you this question. I know you guys don't get much of a look at practice, especially meaningful practice minutes. Have you had glimpses of Shaedon Sharpe? And if so, what do you think? How's his development and rehab coming?
Well, he's shooting threes in practice. That's, considering he's out with a shoulder injury, and that I think that's encouraging. His shoulder is already out of the sling. He's getting shots up. But, yeah, to your point, we don't really get a ton of looks at practice. It's really mostly just like guys doing shooting drills by the time they let us in. But I did see him today out there, getting threes up. So I think that's an encouraging sign. And I got the sense, talking to people in Seattle, that he, they don't think this is going to be anything long-term that's going to require surgery or anything like that. It's going to be the 4 to 6 week timeline that they gave. So, as of right now, that's kind of where all that sits. Obviously, we'll see how he continues to progress. But I think the fact that it's been maybe a week and a half since they diagnosed this injury and he's already able to shoot, I think that's probably a pretty encouraging sign.
That's definitely a good sign. Sean, how do you think this is going to play out with the final roster spot with Devontae Graham and Delano Banton?
I would say if they keep one of them, I think Delano Banton by far is the leader in the clubhouse, just based on who's gotten more playing time in the first 2 preseason games. Banton has basically been their backup point guard, and Devontae Graham has really only come in as far as, just for, some garbage time stuff in the second half. He hasn't really gotten out there as much. So I think if they keep one of those two guys, it's going to be Banton. But I don't know. It's also possible, theoretically, that they could decide to just waive both of them and keep a roster spot open in case they, down the line between now and the trade deadline, they want to trade, let's say Anthony Simons or Jeremy Grant or one of their higher priced veterans where they maybe have to take back two players. They want to have the flexibility to do that. So that's a possibility. But if I had to make a prediction right now, I think Delano Banton ends up getting that spot for opening night.
All right. Sean Highkin, read him. Go to rosegardenreport.com. He's on X at Highkin as we get ready for the season opener coming up on the 23rd. Sean, we appreciate the time. We'll talk soon, buddy. See you at Moda tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
There you go. Sean Highkin breaking it down for you. What do you think would make sense there? Keep an open roster spot? Let both Graham and Banton go so you have the flexibility to make moves? Or
I think, Chad, you'd always like to do that. You'd like to be able to keep that spot open. A lot of general managers really want that. It's hard to tell. The fact that Graham hasn't played much, I've seen situations in camp where a coach, he knows Graham by now. Graham's been in the league. He's been around a while. He knows what he can do, and I think he would probably tend to play a younger guy to see if he'll hold up as a backup point guard. Will they exploit him? Will they get after him a little bit defensively? Those kinds of things, because he knows Graham. And so that might be a little misleading at this point. It's hard to tell, though, and it probably isn't going to make earth-shattering news either way.
I would agree. Yeah, Graham is a proven player. He would be a good backup point guard if you're looking to have that type of guy in your roster.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I did see the video that Highkin put out of Sharp putting up threes. He was uninhibited. I mean, he looked normal. He didn't look like a guy that was suffering from any type of pain. That could be a very good sign so that, Sharp, we want him out there as soon as possible so he can continue this process of development. And as you pointed out, you've talked to guys who, they're very high on Sharp.
Yes.
Confident in him and what he can bring.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see it. I want to see him and Scoot on the floor together.
Yeah, he's got to stay healthy for a good run of games here and give him a chance to get into a rhythm of playing as many games as you have to play in the NBA. They've got to see him in that situation.
I guess, Shacker, we could give away the other pair of tickets right now if you want, right? Okay, raise your hand if you would like to go see the Pelicans and Trailblazers on the 27th of this month.
Oh, a lot of hands going up.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. First caller through, 503-248-0620. You got to fire away now. 503-248-0620. First caller through gets a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans.
It's Zion. Come on.
You get skinny Zion, and that's a better version of Zion than regular Zion, who's a little bit fat.
He's still got time to put on weight.
248 between now and the 27th?
Yeah.
But it's before Halloween, so he might not dip his hand into the candy bag.
Yeah.
503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Yeah, that didn't take long. Nice work, peeps. That's simple. Reminder, every Tuesday throughout the entire season here on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, it will be Trailblazers Ticket Tuesday, which means we're going to give away tickets every Tuesday for every game this year, courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers. And for all of your other ticket needs, simply head over to trailblazers.com. And they've got the opener coming up on the 23rd. It's going to be a T-shirt night. The Warriors are in town. The T-shirts are awesome. A red Rip City shirt. Steph Curry and company. It's a great way to kick off the season. So you can get your tickets now for the opener on October 23rd. Just simply head over to trailblazers.com. And we got 2 more preseason games to go, tomorrow night and Friday, and then boom, we're on to the regular season. It doesn't take long. It used to be, I was talking with the captain, Rich Passon, the other day, the NBA used to have like 7 or 8 preseason games.
Oh, yeah. I remember 8, and it was a big deal when they got back to 7. 8 was way too many.
Of meaningless preseason basketball games.
Yeah. Well, that's back in the day when they played in Klamath Falls, Eugene, Corvallis, wherever.
I think they should still do that, frankly.
I do too, actually.
I've seen the Lakers do that before where they'll go to Vegas or different places. I think it would be cool, like, to see the Blazers playing like a preseason game down in Eugene or some other place around the state. That'd be awesome.
They used to alternate Corvallis and Eugene back and forth. It was cool to get those people a chance to see the Blazers play.
Yeah. And that's why they do the Rip City tour every year, because they want to check out some of the smaller towns where people who are a little bit too far away that don't get a chance to get into Portland too often can get a chance to meet some of the types and stuff. But I like that. It's cool that you get out. It's kind of neat to see NBA players playing at like a college arena or some of these different spots, but they don't do that as much anymore. Heck, LeBron was complaining about having to fly to Milwaukee on a charter flight to go play a preseason game against the Bucks.
Yeah, and people don't realize the NBA doesn't schedule the preseason. Your own team does. So he should have been complaining to the assistant general manager or whoever made up the schedule.
Yeah, hit up Jeannie. What are we doing here?
Yeah. I was told by somebody that it was probably payback for a time that Milwaukee had to come out to California and play them in Bakersfield or somewhere like that, where it necessitated a bus ride.
Oh, so we'll hit you back. We'll give you a home preseason game with LeBron in town.
Chad, almost all of these are payback, back and forth, home and home series. So if they play Utah up here, it means they played them down there last year or they're going to play them down there next year.
I'm
That's
assuming
kind of what
the
it
home
works.
team probably makes – do they make more money off of preseason games in terms of – do they have to share, or is there any type of revenue sharing off of that? Because I know, like, NFL owners love the home preseason games because they get to collect everything.
Yeah.
It's like free money to them.
Yeah, and I think it's probably that way in the preseason. And, it's always concessions and parking, too, side money there.
That stuff adds up quick.
Yeah, especially when the concessions are good, like we sampled today.
We're going to get to that coming up next. Dwight and I were invited down to a Taste of Moda Center. And my biggest takeaway is we've come a long ways from the early days of popcorn and a plain hot dog with mustard and ketchup.
That's right.
Pretty much anything that you want. And this is what I love about today's world. Like, I'm someone that likes to pay attention to what I'm eating and eat healthy. Like, you can get access to all that stuff at Moda Center now. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah. Great local places have found their niche there.
Because I remember going to games when I was young, like in Denver and different spots. The pizza was unsatisfying. The popcorn was so-so.
Stale.
And then you had candy. That was about it. There weren't too many options. Now, if you want shave ice, they got that.
Yeah.
If you want a specialty burrito that's vegan, they got that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a delicious hamburger from a local Portland restaurant, they got that. Anything you could want, Godfather.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of vegetarian entrees at places. I think it's really cool.
So we'll share some insight on that when we come back. And then coming up at the top of the hour, Seattle Kraken hockey will kick off at 5 here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Dwight and I went down to Moda Center before the show today for Taste of Moda Center. And what the Trailblazers did is they invited season ticket holders and media down to bump around the Rose Room, where they had a great setup of all the different offerings that they're going to have at game days this year. And you could go around and get free samples. And so we did. And you took full advantage, Godfather.
Yes, I did.
What were some of the things that you enjoyed that you tried?
I will tell you, Chad. First, I'm going to give you a disclaimer. I couldn't get to everything, so if I don't mention somebody, it doesn't mean
we did not want to be in a food coma during the show today.
That's exactly right. It's right before the show. Anyway, if I don't mention your place of business, it doesn't mean because I didn't like it. It's just because I didn't get a chance to try it. But I found a lot of things I really liked, and I'll go through them in no real order. But over at Tip Top Burger Shop, we met the owner, who's also a chef and was featured on Top Chef when that business came to town, when that show came to town. And I tried actually his chicken with the dipping sauce. Tremendous. That was really good. So I'm assuming his hamburgers are pretty good too, at least.
His name is Gabriel Pascuzzi.
Yeah. Big time chef. Has operated some really nice places, worked in New York, spent time in Copenhagen learning his trade. We'll have him on someday. Big Blazer fan. Good guy.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he knows food extremely well.
Yes, he does. That was great. I also liked Kinnaman's, which I had been to before. There's one in Beaverton, and then there's somewhere in Portland too. Kinnaman's serves cinnamon rolls with like toppings on them, like frosting or berries or something like that. Did you say something, Mike?
Is it Kinnamons?
Okay, Kinnamons.
That's how I've heard other people pronounce it. I'm no expert.
Kinnamons, okay. Spelled the same.
What
M-O-N-S.
topping did you try on the cinnamon roll?
Oh, I had one with a berry topping on it. It was really good. But it's just strange to see a cinnamon roll topped like that with anything. But they really have it figured out. It's very good. Then my favorite probably of all was Fusion Shave Ice. And they are going to be on the 300 level, just to let you know. They don't have brick and mortar yet, even a food cart yet. They're going to open a place in the spring, but this is their introduction to Portland, basically. So I'm a big Shave Ice fan. So much better than a snow cone. If you've never had it, you need to try it. And they've got, it's fusion, so they have a lot of real interesting flavors. And loved it. Just loved it. Thought it was great.
Well, I had a chance to check out the Mexi Masala Makini Dal Burrito. And what it is, it's one of their vegan offerings down there. And I'm probably going to butcher some of these names here, but Makini Dal, cucumber, salad, and saffron rice in a flour tortilla served with cucumber and mango chutney. And it was delicious. Absolutely phenomenal, and I really enjoyed that. That would be something that I would eat on a regular basis. And then I had one of the salad options from Crisp Salads, which will also be at Moda Center.
Yeah. I should also mention I went to Backcourt Barbecue.
What'd you have there?
Brisket nachos. Not a big plate. That's very small.
Yeah, they were like little samplings.
Yeah. Man, it was good. Their brisket was really good. And so were their chips were more like potato chips than tortilla chips.
Uh-huh.
Excellent. Must have made them themselves, I'm sure. But really good stuff. They also had the usual places that people there are familiar with. Plum Tasty has been in Moda for a while.
That's my favorite current spot on the 100 level is Plum Tasty.
Yeah, and Sizzle Pie was there. Bays, who are noted for their fried chicken sandwiches, they were there. What else? Blaze's Bistro, they're also on the 300 level. So a really good sampling of all kinds of things.
That's one thing I got to give props to Chris McGowan on. One thing that he did as team president was really rethink about the Moda Center experience, wanting to bring in the local flavor. Because one thing that Portland is known for, as you know, great coffee, microbrews, but also a lot of terrific restaurants around town.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big new kind of trend in arenas to do that. Like In San Francisco, man, they do a great job there with garlic fries and Ghirardelli, hot fudge sundaes, things like that. But this is really well done, and I think they've selected some really good local vendors for their choices. It's a lot different, like you said, Chad. It's a lot different than that old hot dog with mustard that's probably been recooked a couple times at the ballpark in the old days.
No, and you get the hot dog bun, and it was kind of crusty because it had been exposed to air.
Yeah.
The experience at ballparks back in the day were,
oh, gosh.
well, they just weren't very good. My favorite thing to get at the Kingdome when I go for Bronco games was nachos, but it was the old school nachos where they would put the cheese on it, which was great, and they'd have the jalapeno slices, which I liked, but that was it. But now you can get barbecued nachos.
Yeah, with all kinds of little toppings, and it's just outstanding stuff. I mean, I don't know what they're going to charge for. We didn't see prices, but I'm telling you, it's worth your time and money to sample some of these places. They really do good work.
The only thing that I would say that they did better back in the day than what I see now is I cannot find access to hot roasted peanuts at a ball game. You get the store-bought bag of peanuts in a shell, which are salted. That's fine.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that compares to getting a foil bag of hot roasted peanuts that are still warm when you're eating them.
Yeah,
that
I know.
experience right there is off the charts.
I've been to Fenway Park in Boston, and on the street, they sell you those hot roasted peanuts and put them in a brown paper bag. Take them into the ballpark.
That's where it
and
should
they've been
be.
roasting them right there on their cart. It's really cool.
They had those in New York, too.
Yeah.
The vendors were everywhere, but I was as I was hanging out by Central Park before one of the Yankee-Dodger games, I walked up to one of the vendors and got a bag of fresh roasted peanuts, hot. And it was great because I would bite into it. And you could feel the heat coming out from the inside of the shell. It's like, okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I need that in my life. That was good. That was a good experience. Well set up by the Trailblazers Day. Big thanks to them for inviting us.
Loved it.
All right, that's going to do it for us. A big thanks to Sean Hyken for joining the show. We're going to be back tomorrow before the Trailblazer game at 3 o'clock with the Rip City Drive. We'll get a Bo Nix update with Ryan Edwards in Denver. Coming up next, the Seattle Kraken are going to be in action against the Florida Predators. Puck is going to drop just after 5 o'clock. See ya! The Nashville Predators.